Good morning. Maybe I'm the last person for the talk for this late morning, and also the time is very limited, so I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nadhaporn Saengpetch from Ramathipati Hospital. Thank you again for the committee for choosing me for talking something that I don't familiar with that too much, but I will try my best. The topic of myself will be the consensus statement of the thermoregulatory and the altitude challenges for the high-level athletes. I have less experience with the high altitude level athletes, but for the heat, I have exposed some. So how could we recognize the risk? Last 10 years, 20 years back, between 2001 and 2009, in the American census, they got the report of the exertional heat illness, nearly 6,000 patients, and the rate of death, it will be 2 to 5 yearly. And also the very bad injury and also the cause of death, it was reported in 2002. In South Africa, they got the one of the cross-country mountain bike we called RCOST cycling tour. At that year, because of the heat is very high, so we lost 5 cyclists in that event. Why do we need the consensus? The question needs to be answered. What are the clinical risks of the athletes during training and competing in the challenging environments? What is the safe environments that limit the training and competition? What are the best methods to prepare for and adapt the environmental challenges? And the last one, what additional practical preventive measures can be put in place to further minimize health-related environmental risks? So after there has been one of the literature that published in British Journal Sports Medicine in 2012, talking about the consensus of the IOC for the thermoregulatory and altitude challenges for high-level athletes. So I followed these regulations. First, the effect of heat stress. The environment factors that contribute to hyperthermia, we need to know this term. It's called the wet bulb globe temperature, WBGT. How to calculate that? It is from the index that calculate from the temperature, from wet bulb temperature, that may be affected by the wind speed and humidity. The TG, that is the globe temperature, that is affected by the solar radiation. And last one is the TD, is the dry temperature. It's from the standard thermometer. If you have to have the athletes that play indoor, you don't need the dry temperature. You just cut it. For the bad condition is if the weather above 92 Fahrenheit is the bad condition for playing outdoor. So how they can affect the body. The heat, the minimum conductive of the heat exchange can be happened in the low temperature gradient. It means that the environment and the heat body body temperature is close. It cannot conductive heat more. The humidity, high water vapor pressure, there will be the low sweating. If you have the windy, the high wind speed encourage the better sweat evaporations. And the last one is the from the infrared, or the infrared light measure from the skin. Sunburn can increase the thermal sensation and decrease the thermal regulations. For the outdoor sports with the like in the water sports, like aqua sports, body heat loss is convection between skin and water, determined by convection of the heat transfer coefficient. That's maybe if you play with the speed of the water, the temperature difference between skin and water also determine the convection. The recommended water temperature that is safe is more than 31 Celsius, and swimmer garments should be very good design. And some specific clothes that protect the gear, the thermal strains will be like this, like equestrian players and also the cycling, the BMX players. You have the special garments for that. So what's happened if the physiological change after the training and competing in a hot environment? There will be the change in strength, power, speed, endurance. The alteration of the neuromotor skill and performance will be changed, and the premature fatigue will happen. The system that involved will be cardiovascular, thermoregulator, metabolic, neuro, and cognitive function. The modifiable factors to minimize the risk of the hypothermia and exertional heat illnesses. Hydration. We talk about the how can you access the fluid loss from the fields, the sports fields. You don't know, but the common thing that you can do is that if the athletes have urine, you can observe the urine color, volume, the sweat, dietary salt intake. That's prior should be less than 6 grams per day, and also the sodium homeostasis between the consumption and sweat loss. The acclimatization, what is that? It is the behavior. It is the physiologic change after the temperature has been changed. If you have the high temperature outside, the capillary will be have some dilatation, and also they got some lots of perfusion, also some sweating. In different way of the low temperature, the vasoconstriction will happen, and also you have to less sweat. Warm up and pre-cooling is also significant for the athletes to play in the hot and cold field. Warm up will increase the muscle temperature, dilation of the capillaries, and increase perfusion, and also the oxygen perfusion. In a hot condition, it can activate the undesirable level of the body heat storage and have higher core temperature. That can cause the early excessive heat strain and reduce performance. In pre-cooling, the proposed to reduce the baseline body core temperature and enhance performance, such as the aerobic exercise. Ice ingestion in cold water has been suggested to enhance the performance as well. Clothes, you know that the quick dry rapidly should be good for minimal restriction of sweat evaporations, and also if you have good design for the naked skin of the athletes who play, it should be good. The recommendations for sporting organizations and governing bodies for reducing the heat conditions to reduce the risk of the heat. Facility, the organizer should provide the best infrastructure to minimize heat strain. Also provide some air conditioning in the room, locker room, shade areas, cooling station in the competitive site, and have emergency plan in case that they have the heat stroke happen like this. Scheduling, if that even have the heat in the daytime, you can switch in the early time. And some sports will be good in some special times. Like afternoon will be for the sprinting sport, relay, running, football. In the morning should be good for the lower core temperature, and endurance performance will be good for in the morning. So next is the cold that we are not used to, and I think that I can skip if the time finish. Effect of the cold environment. The core body heat, the body heat can lose because of the environment. They will happen, the condition called hypothermia. And frostbite, also the other thing that happen if they got some speed and also some of the very low temperature. To maintain the core body temperature, there will be the compromised metabolism and physiological function, and tissue will damage eventually. The factor that determines this physiologic change will be ambient temperature between the core temperature and the environment temperature. Wind, speed of the wind, wet clothes, like you are in the wet water and its temperature is below, very low, and water temperature and current. Hypothermia in sports, the heat production will be increased to compensate. The body heat loss rate will be also high, as well as the alpine ski. The brief cold exposure will be less than 3 minutes, and it takes about it can make like 6 to 11 METS. Whereas the cross-country ski or Nordic ski, it has more heat loss and also it can make some very high metabolic rate and make some more hypothermia. Like swimming in the cold water, like the Federation of swimming, the 16 Celsius is the lowest limit for temperature that measure below 1 meters below the water levels. And this is the frostbite will happen if they got the wind chill. That means that they got the low temperature plus the wind speeds cause frostbite. I cannot get into more details because the time has been finished, so I would like to stop the talk right now. Thank you very much.